Hi everyone, I'm Nacho Thomas, and in the following tutorials we're going to learn about the workflow with the EXRs, what are they, etc. It's going to be done in several parts as we have a long way to go, and in this first part we're going to talk about what's an EXR exactly, the difference between layers and channels, and we'll start to talk about the workflow we're going to use, mainly to establish relative paths so things can be really done, speed up the pipelines enormously. So what's an EXR exactly? I'm going to start with this scene, and I'm going to load an EXR. This is it. So just see what it is. We see it's a similar image to what we are using often. It looks normal, but if we take a look here, it has several channels. Not only the RGB and the alpha, it has also gotten more information. The depth, for example, the alpha, the depth, the normal world, the whatever this is, which is an ambient occlusion, light select, reflections, whatever information you want to stick out of your 3D application. In this case I used V-Ray, for example, and I just left the names default. And if you want to learn how to extract those passes from your 3D application, I really recommend to go to the relighting tutorial, the second part, which explains how to extract some passes of, for example, the most common applications. I only use Autodesk, such as Maya, Softimage, and Max, and with several renderers such as Renderman, V-Ray, Mentoray, or Arnold. So you can see how to extract passes. Straight away, these here are layers. The EXR has layers, and these layers are gonna be composed. For example, the alpha layer just needs one channel because it's like a grayscale image. Just with one channel we can define everything. It's different, for example, with other ones such as, for example, light select, because these ones are gonna need 3 channels. If we took a look at the channels, just use a copy note. These are the channels. So, for example, the image, the RGB layer, is composed by red, green, and blue, but the same thing applies to, for example, the normal ones, etc. So here we have a view of the layers we're extracting, and we'll see that we can go down to the channels. And as I said, you can have layers with 1 channel, with 3 channels. You can have layer with 16 channels if you want, for example, to extract mattes. You can have a layer called matte, and that layer has many channels, each one with some information. So this is pretty much it. So we are going to talk about the advantages of having one single file with everything inside. The bad part of this is that it can be pretty memory consuming if you don't deal with the EXRs properly. So we'll learn how to manage difficult EXRs with multiple information. The good thing about it, there's so many. If we start, for example, just merging with himself and telling him just, for example, the extra text, you're gonna multiply it using the mask of the alpha. As you will see, the difference without is gonna be quite obvious. And what I'm just doing is extracting in the same way we would do with normal channels, but everything's going out of this one. Everything is outputting for the original EXR. If, for example, I said I want to color correct my ambient occlusion, I could now work with my ambient occlusion, and everything works from the single image. So if I, for example, swapped this and say, okay, I don't want to use this image, I want to use another one, let's just swap to another one. I could perfectly see that this works pretty cool with this path too. So the good point about this is you're going to be able to recycle enormously from one side to the other. But we have to pay a lot of attention to these names. When you export your channels, you don't have to change it, but it's better if you, instead of giving this strange name, if I call this, for example, AO, ambient occlusion, it would help me enormously to proceed with my pipelines, because I could use this, because this is looking for the color correct is looking for that channel. If I haven't got this channel, the rest wouldn't work. So we will learn how to deal with this. What we're going to start with the pipeline we should use, and this pipeline is going to be certainly good to introduce in a different way, not doing this, a read image like this, but we could use something different. Instead of giving this root, for example, we could say, okay, I want you to save this scene. I'm going to save it in, for example, workflow English. Yep. I'm going to save here, and instead of it's in this path, okay? This path is the one I use, so I've got a folder where I've got my image. I could change this perfectly, for example, to file. Just open the brackets and say you're gonna check at this root. I'm just writing the value of the root point name, close brackets twice. Okay, as you can see, everything works pretty cool. If I reload my image, it finds my image. Why? Because I have told him with this, whenever you want to search for this image, you're gonna look here at the root name. This is where you've got your point NK, the scene we loaded, the Nuke scene. You're gonna get that value, and you're gonna use it as the direction name to look for the file, as the path name to look for the file. That's what I did with this expression. Easy. So if I now want to change and I go to another computer, if I grab the whole folder, it's gonna work perfectly. We don't have to recheck the paths. I prefer another method even better, which is deals a little bit with the same thing, but it's a little bit more complex and much better for huge pipelines with many with many files into. If I just say, for example, I'm gonna use a no-op node, which does basically nothing. I'm gonna say 16, and this is gonna be, for example, down in, let's say, this color, yellow color, for everything, yellow color, yeah. And I'm gonna say this is gonna be my main router. This is the name of the node, okay, router. I know that it's no-op because I see it here, but I don't want this no-op. In fact, I'm going to do right button, manage user knobs, and I'm going to add something here. I'm going to add a file name, which I'm going to call dir, in this case, and the label is what I want him to write, so I'll just say this is the path of the file of the Nuke file. Cool. Done. This is a path to the Nuke file. So I could grab this and say this is the file to the Nuke path. And this has been established as dir, which is in the router folder. So what for? I could now come here and say, instead of looking for it here, I could say just go to a specific folder. For example, I can use versions. and I'm going to show you the advantage of this. I could use versions. I could say in the root I'm going to say /v1, for example, and here for this image I'm going to say you're going to look for the image in the following string expression. It's a simple expression. In Python I'm going to say value of the router. Make sure the caps lock is well written. Point dir, which is the knob that I wrote before, is going to look at the dir, which is this value of the node router. Is going to use that value to check for this image. So if I press enter, as you can see, he's perfectly finding my image. Okay, what am I doing this for? It's strange because it seems longer. It was so easy just to grab my image. Let's say I just copy this, change this, copy this node, paste it, and refer, for example, to the other image I'm going to use, which is ship. It's perfectly going to find the ship image because it's in the same root. If we take a look, I've got inside my folder v1, I've got ship and background. So he's looking into this file for those two images. This is pretty cool way to work because, for example, if all of a sudden I've just done all my nodes and the lighter says changes something and he re-renders, and he just gives you this, which is another version with the same names but in a different folder, v2 version 2. What I could say, instead of going to each and every EXR, I could just grab here and say you're gonna check this but in the v2 folder. And as you can see, we're going to find a different solution. So it's going to be really easy just to have one path where everyone is going to look for the images. So I can go here, change from one to another just by going up here and changing my main route, my main path to look for. So we're going to start from here. I have my two images and I'll just jump to the next chapter where we're going to see how we can deal with this when we want to merge them, playing with channels and renaming channels, etc.